This is the Synthetic Signal Report for Friday, February 27th, 2026, in the afternoon. In today's deep dive, we examine a landmark 10th Circuit ruling on device privacy in NASA's structural overhaul of the Artemis moon program. We analyze a massive $110 billion capital injection into OpenAI and Anthropic's high-stakes standoff with the Pentagon. We also look at a new technique for large-scale deanonymization using language models and an escalation to open war between Pakistan and Afghanistan. The 10th Circuit Court of Appeals has issued a pivotal ruling regarding the Fourth Amendment rights of protesters. The court found that law enforcement cannot use broad warrants to perform dragnet searches of electronic devices seized during demonstrations. The case centered on the government's attempt to search every file on a protester's phone, regardless of its relevance to the specific alleged crime. The ruling establishes that a warrant must be narrowly tailored to minimize the intrusion into private data that is unrelated to the investigation. This decision sets a high bar for police departments and federal agencies, ensuring that participation in a public protest does not automatically waive a citizen's right to digital privacy. For technical analysts, this shifts the focus toward the minimum necessary principle in forensic data collection, potentially limiting the use of full-disk imaging in cases involving civil disobedience. NASA has announced a fundamental restructuring of the Artemis program following persistent safety concerns and budget overruns. The agency is canceling planned upgrades to the Space Launch System, or SLS, and shifting its focus toward commercial partnerships to fill the gap. This includes a more prominent role for private missions, such as those led by Jared Isaacman. The overhaul is driven by critical delays in the development of the lunar lander and life support systems. NASA officials indicate that the current path was no longer sustainable given the hardware failures observed in recent testing cycles. By abandoning the most complex SLS iterations, the agency aims to simplify the mission profile, but the move raises questions about the long-term viability of the government's heavy-lift rocket program compared to rapidly advancing commercial alternatives. OpenAI has secured a massive $110 billion in its latest funding round, bringing its pre-money valuation to $730 billion. This is a historic capital concentration in the artificial intelligence sector. The round includes $30 billion each from SoftBank and NVIDIA, along with a $50 billion commitment from Amazon. As part of the agreement, Amazon Web Services will become the exclusive cloud distributor for OpenAI's Frontier Enterprise platform. This move solidifies a deep integration between Amazon's infrastructure and OpenAI's most capable models. It also signals a shift in the cloud wars, as NVIDIA's direct investment ensures that OpenAI will have prioritized access to the hardware clusters necessary to train next-generation systems. The sheer scale of this funding suggests a pivot towards sovereign-scale computing, where individual companies wield the resources of small nations. An under-the-radar development in behavioral analysis suggests the end of online pseudonymity. Researchers have demonstrated that large language models can perform large-scale de-anonymization with high precision. By granting a model full internet access, it can re-identify users on platforms like Hacker News or participants in anonymous research interviews. The model achieves this by matching conversational patterns and pseudonymous profile details with other data points available across the web. What would take a human investigator hours of manual cross-referencing, these agents can do in seconds at scale. This matters because it invalidates the current security by pseudonymity model used by millions of developers and researchers. It is a signal from the future where your writing style and specific knowledge base become a unique digital fingerprint that cannot be hidden behind a username. Anthropic is currently locked in a confrontation with the Pentagon over the military use of its Claude models. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is reportedly pressuring the company to remove safety guardrails for autonomous weapons and mass surveillance systems. Anthropic leadership has refused, arguing that frontier models are not technically ready for autonomous killing decisions and that mass surveillance is fundamentally undemocratic. This clash highlights a growing divide between safety-first AI labs and national security mandates. The Pentagon has warned it may axe existing agreements if Anthropic does not comply. The outcome of this standoff will likely set the precedent for how private AI companies interact with the global defense industry, and whether ethical guardrails can survive the pressures of a new technological arms race. In the physical layer, Google has invested $1 billion in Form Energy's iron air battery technology. This system uses a process of reversible rusting to store energy. The target price is a disruptive $33 per kilowatt hour, which is significantly lower than current lithium-ion costs. This could solve the long-duration storage problem for renewable energy grids. Meanwhile, the geopolitical situation in Central Asia has deteriorated. Pakistan has officially declared a state of open war following a wave of retaliatory bombing strikes on the Afghan cities of Kabul and Kandahar. The escalation follows a series of border attacks by Taliban forces against Pakistani troops. This move threatens to destabilize the entire region and has already disrupted critical supply chains across the border. Community sentiment is sharply focused on a series of hardware vulnerabilities. Security researchers have identified critical flaws in SATA network switches, specifically the SL902 model. These devices use the broken MD5 hash function for session cookies and contain vulnerabilities that allow authenticated users to change account passwords without verifying the current one. Even worse, the session IDs are predictable, allowing attackers to forge authenticated sessions easily. In the software ecosystem, the Fastify middleware known as MIDI is under scrutiny. The latest update fixes a vulnerability where path-scoped middleware could be bypassed, leading to unauthorized access to secret endpoints. On the data breach front, the group known as Shiny Hunters has leaked 2 million records from the Dutch telecom provider Autodo. They claim to have stolen a total of 21 million records, which would represent nearly the entire customer base. Finally, analysts are tracking the Eternum command and control infrastructure. It is being used for advanced persistence and network evasion, suggesting a sophisticated actor is preparing for long-term operations.